Good afternoon, everybody. December 14th, 2023, meeting of the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Emergency Preparedness Committee. I will be your host this afternoon, Steve Swayze, and we'll move on to some other events as the day progresses. So roll call is being auto recorded for those of you online, and we have the attendance sheet going around. Given the fact we are all the way back to actually meeting in person, we always do something at this point in the meeting, don't we, Randy? Randy?
Yes.
What do? We stand up, and for 1 minute, I want you to reach out and introduce yourself to someone you have never met before, because the value is you never want to meet somebody for the first time at a disaster. So here we go. Come on, let's do it. 1 minute.
Keep it up.
All right, let's rock and roll. Here we go. The recording is already on, so we're good there. And then a call to order to the degree that we need one. The agenda is posted right there. Are there any additions, deletions, changes, whatever you want to do to the agenda? Going once, going twice. Do I have a motion from the floor to accept the agenda as posted?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Given we're still working in the virtual world, is there anybody opposed? Hearing none, the agenda as posted moves forward. Approval of last minutes, they're online. Is there anyone that wishes to oppose the minutes as posted? We're getting a feedback from Mark Holes saying he's getting a lot of echo in the audio.
Anybody else getting an echo?
Oh, it looks like you have two screens up. Can you mute one of them?
I think it's better now. It was more so when everyone was chatting together.
Oh,
Okay, got it. Yeah, that will do it. But thanks for the insight. Appreciate it. That moves us on to, here we go. Okay, we're going to move on to updates, issues, and good efforts. Okay, last time we checked in on Russian aviation, the folks over in who landed in the cornfield just outside Moscow were not to be outdone by the guys who landed in the wheat field in the eastern part of Siberia with the same company kind of airplane, Ural Airlines. But if you'll look at the screen down below, you will notice that the leaves have come off the trees and the airplane is still sitting there. So if this was the airline, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have a slight maintenance delay. We hope you'll, whatever. You get the idea. So anyway, that's the last time we looked at those folks. Upcoming meetings and events for everybody that's out there. I mentioned last time we met, the calendar is fully functional, up and running, and the calendar will show you anything that the EPC has its fingers into and when they meet. So I don't repeat that kind of stuff anymore, but what I would like to highlight is in 2024 gatherings of note. I just noticed this morning that the Minnesota Governor's HSEM conference got posted. Brooklyn Center, been out there many times. What is it, the Dan Brown or something like that center? Anyway,
Earl Brown.
Earl Brown, there we go. Thank you very much. Earl Brown Conference Center. Too close in, I think, for us to try to pull anything off at this point. But you can look at the rest of the list there. Esri Federal User Conference, that usually has a lot of stuff related to geospatial data impacting the Homeland Security Emergency Management community. If you want to go looking for money in the state of Minnesota, the AMC Legislative Conference is not a bad place to go. And then I think probably, as I'll note later, if we're going to target actually having a table and people doing outreach, it would make sense, I think, to try to go up to Breezy Point, because that's always a fun place anyway. And then last but not least, GIS LAS, we've had several folks that have previously provided presentations at that event. People, My incompetence was pointed out to me last time we met, that I had failed to notice that Brigadier General, I knew him when he was a Lieutenant Colonel, Joe Kelly, had retired from HSEM, and Christie had come over from the airport, MSP, and has taken over as the HSEM director as of May. So my apologies to both of them, but just the update on people. For those of you who may know this individual, I believe you would pronounce that Corey
Turnout.
Thronu?
I think it's turnout.
Turnout, okay. He got selected to serve as the surveyor for the state of Minnesota in coordinating the remonumentation of the state. And if you're not familiar with what that concept is all about, is that in the 1820s and 30s, they went through and staked out the corners of township, range, all of that kind of thing, and put the markers in the ground to support that. Many of them were wood, and over the years as they transitioned to metal, a lot of cases people would find them in the woods and think, oh, this is a pretty cool thing, I think I'll dig it up and go put it on my wall at home. Well, why that's important is that's the official location off of which determination of property boundaries and the rest of it exists. So the state has pledged $9.7 million to this effort. And as you see, Corey is going to be the man in charge going forward. So it'll be an interesting evolution over the next, I'll bet it'll take him, what, 5 to 10 years to actually get it all done. We'll see, but a substantial program, and he's the man in charge. What other stuff do we have out there for updates? You might notice the governor in this picture, and you might also be aware the governor was a geography teacher. So he has a keen interest in the application of how you can use geospatial stuff in support of different government functions. And ahead of GIS Day, which is traditionally in the middle of November, on Halloween Day, he hosted a government focused forum on the use of geospatial technology. And as you can see, IT Services Commissioner Tarek Tomes was there, along with the governor and Esri founder. Esri being the 9,000-pound gorilla in the geospatial world, they have more money than they know what to do with. Jack Dangerman being the individual that's in charge of it, and he actually attended the University of Minnesota, along with one of our favorite people, Allison Slatz, who is the Geospatial Information Officer for the state. So a collection of the top of the heat minds in the state, and they were out promoting the use of geospatial technology. So there you go. Did I miss anybody or anything on the updates? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, dear Santa, here we go for issues. I've been good all year. Okay, usually. Okay, very occasionally. Okay, never mind, I'll buy myself some. Here we go. The priorities listing here. The leadership of the EPC has been meeting and made a determination as to which projects we want to go after. Which ones do we want to tackle? And the top listed item that came out of that effort was to effectively work towards clarification of what will be called state-sponsored, state-endorsed, best possible data layers for the state. And that is a significant project that is composed of two different components. The first is, if you go up to the MnGeo Geospatial Commons, for critical infrastructure data, you'll see the listing that Stacy put together, and the elements that break out of where the things are and how you can go get them. That particular effort in places conflicts with another research effort, which was used to build the best possible data sets for this thing called MnSaver, the Minnesota Situational Awareness Viewer. And so you can see here, Randy, if you could.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, appreciate it. So the idea behind the project going forward is for us to work through to ensure within the EPC our recommendation for each data layer set as to what is the most appropriate set that's out there. And it could come from a variety of different places, but it's impactful across many different projects because if each different project that's being run in the state is using a different set of best possible geospatial location for hospitals or schools or whatever, it impacts everything from mitigation planning to this big project that's underway called the Underground Utilities Mapping Project Team. So it's really an important thing that we work through and clarify. And in regard to that, I would like to try to slay, if I can, out of the gate that this group and our extended partners, wherever they may be today, will be wandering into anything that you would consider owned by HSEM, you know, specialized data. And I would ask you to think about it as there being 4 different layers of data. The first basic layer is what I would call or I would describe as where are things. And this is something that's been around since the USGS stood up, the US Geologic Survey. I mean, if you think about it, you can go look at a topo map and see where a hospital is located or whatever. And of course, with the onset of Google Maps and the rest of it, you can now drive down into what time is a restaurant open. So that's, if you think about the basic data, and what Stacy did with her project was identifying the best possible information she could about where police stations, fire stations, and the rest are located, and then use that data to build different applications that can be used for analysis. Well, if you move down to the next layer, the expanded data, what that provides you is not just the location of where something is, but what are the capabilities at that location? And this item has tended to be the one that's created the greatest level of confusion and problem in solving this thing, where if I say critical infrastructure, that means something to me. It may mean something completely different at HSEM. So this layer of data is response, think of as response and recovery data. Things about, for example, how many beds are in a Red Cross shelter? That's an important item for an emergency management planner or, you know, whatever kind of development of planning for the future. And so I put down there the examples of the Homeland Infrastructure Foundation level data Highfield work group is a sponsor of a broad range of this kind of data that they publish as this thing called Homeland Security Information Protection Open Data. What does that mean to you? Approximately of the like 430 data sets that are out there, 380 of them that contain detailed information, they live in the public domain. They are open for anybody to go look at. And so what then drops us down below the red line? And I would tell you the next 2 levels are the things that, first of all, I would call as your protected info. In other words, there is an access denial element that might be impactful on shutting down the IT systems in the United States or damage or destruction of resources would cause serious harm to state, regional, US, or international. And I can't think of an instance where there's not either law or well-known regulation where you can, like, maybe get your head around it. How many of you realize that the internet node that makes Japan and Korea work is actually located in Chicago? So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that in the wrong hands is a bad thing to have out there. This one slipped out many years ago and has been out in the public domain since. So typically, it's impactful in what are defined as major events. And the standard in the federal interagency is the 4-element playbook. It's hurricane, it's earthquake, it's pandemic, or it's WMD. Those are the kinds of things of where information elements, if they were out in the public domain, would be a bad thing. So again, what happens is, as they're planning over on that side for the big, bad, and ugly, they're accessing those open data sets that are put together by the Homeland Security information working groups and so on, but they're also in the public domain. And that's an element that causes a lot of confusion about who's on what side of the fence and why are you doing what you're doing. So that, I would hope, going forward, be helpful for you in understanding and sorting that out. So here's the last thing there. So the last element is the what's happening now. In the first 3 cases, we're talking about where something is and its importance. But during the disaster, emergency management, EOC teams are running their, their stoplight thing on red, yellow, green on whether or not we can exit on this particular item, or they got their screens up and they're doing whatever. That's the what's happening now element. And that is completely, as I choke here, is completely outside the realm of anything the EPC would be interested in and concerned about. That's emergency management stuff. You guys do what you do with your data. So that's hopefully a way of backgrounding and helping you understand what this EPC effort that Stacy and I will be trying to spearhead as we go forward into 2024 is getting those best possible data sets out there. And then, as Randy is sitting down here at the end of the table, his level of concern would be a third element that was on our priorities list. The problem that we currently have now nationally is the federal government is paying contractors like Dun & Bradstreet, maybe even Geocom, I don't know, to run out and collect data about a particular data layer and then feed it to this national thing where they jam it all together. Well, the problem with that is you're paying a vendor to deliver that stuff, and they don't have the skin in the game. They're giving you garbage, but then what ends up happening is when it comes back down from the top, it came from Homeland Security or it came from MGA, and oh my gosh, it must be correct. That's the issue that we're trying to fix, and Randy will be leading the effort to try to figure out how to create a node connection so that in the future, the US government, whatever part that needs those best possible data layers, will have a place that, if you will, put the plug into the wall and get the stuff from the state versus it being the other way around. Any questions on that one? Okay, tell everybody's excited about it. Okay, all right, here we go with good efforts. I mean, come on, a Chihuahua with a blanket and a cold drink or whatever, you gotta love it. Okay, what do we got out there for good efforts? Here we go. The rebuild of the EPC website continues unabated. Let me check a couple of chat items here. Good on my end. And okay, never mind. Yeah, so that's underway. And what I would like to, I think there's something here I want to point out. Give me a chance to figure it out here. Spreading the word. So, so the left-hand side gives you an idea of what we're doing as far as outreach through the website. I personally had a family illness issue that I had to take care of through 2022, and I was pretty much checked out of circulation. So that's the reason that you see the drop off in 2022. But you know, you can see it's impactful that the website continues to gain traction. And then over on our YouTube channel, 69 videos posted. We've had the opportunity there in 6,100 instances. I know that is not as many as 3 million for cute cat video things or whatever you want to go with. But in that number of instances, we had an opportunity to do outreach in a way that hopefully help other people learn something. So I'm happy to see that's continued to move forward. Okay, we're down to volunteer of the award quarter award certificate. Another internal battle at the EPC leadership meeting was trying to iron out what our volunteer of the quarter certificate would look like, and this is the final outcome. It needs to go to a professional art person. I thought I would have them all printed off for this meeting, but unfortunately, there's a quirk in some of the stuff that I won't want before I print up a bunch of templates to have a real artist fix. So that's coming sometime in 2024. But that doesn't mean we can't designate somebody as being the volunteer of the quarter for Ford. We'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, what did I forget? Were there other victories or defeats out there? Oh man, this is a still group, I'm telling you. I don't know. Randy, come on, you gotta have some. No? Okay. All right, moving right along. We'll keep this thing underway. Project team reports. So glad I got so many slides in for project team. There we go. Okay, leadership team, in case you're not aware of it. Vice Chair is Randy sitting here. Matt Goodman's with the Sheriff's Office up there in St. Louis County. Brian Huberty, he's up somewhere north. I think it might be like near Grand Rapids, maybe. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, Corey Richter in the north side of the Twin Cities, and then Stacy starts here with us today, University of Minnesota Duluth. The next time the leadership's going to get together is Monday, February 12th at 1 p.m. If you want to come in and sit in on it and find out what we're yapping about, we'd be more than happy to, have you join us. Just shoot me a note and I will send you the link to join that meeting. That takes us down to our first project team to have a chance to chat about where things are going. And Stacy, you should be able to talk right from where you are because the mic will pick it up. And I have a slide for you.
Okay,
Here it is.
all right.
The point being,
Let me make my own.
The point is this. This girl is busy. I know you can't read that. I'm well aware that you go below 16 font, you're in bad shape, or even 18 font, you shouldn't be doing it. So I just posted that up to show you that Stacy, in her last report of her project team, report out, said, we got all the stuff we could be working on. What's going to be the priority? So go ahead, Stacy, for you.
Okay. So that's correct. We at our last meeting, we talked about a number of things, looking forward to 2024 and what we want to focus on. Steve already mentioned a couple. One is making sure that what is posted on the GeoCommons Critical Infrastructure Resource website, we want to make sure that that site aligns with other visible apps that the community is using, so that we don't have confusion. We also had a good discussion about the utilities page. So currently our critical infrastructure page just sort of links out to the utilities page, and we, there are a number of different types of utilities and distinctions, as Steve made, between their uses. And so we're thinking about how maybe to reorganize those critical infrastructure pages to better align with who the users are and what they're needing for different purposes, because there's a lot of stuff there and it's getting a little overwhelming now. So, but that's just something that's underway. We are also going to be talking more about how to maybe get some kind of sponsorship or endorsement of data sets from outside of just our committee, but would that go through the Geospatial Advisory Council and then through the MnGeo office somehow? What would that look like? Just so those same issues that Steve brought up, when high-filled or vendors are looking for data to make sure that they're able to obtain the best ones that have been identified. We just need to formalize that somehow. So those are things that have risen to the top. We've had a couple of members of the critical infrastructure work group cycle off, and we're looking for new members. It's been super valuable to have different sectors and people in different environments, from emergency management to Department of Health to Department of Commerce, the state, to participate, to get these different perspectives on the geospatial data resources. So join us if you're interested. We would love to have your perspective. You don't have to be an expert in anything, just an interest in using it, using the data.
Thank you, Stacy. Very good. Stacy has been an absolute workhorse, and we just can't appreciate you enough, Stacy. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, underground utilities mapping. Does anybody in this room know anything about that? Bob? Okay, Bob says he doesn't want to talk about it. Okay, here's the deal. That project started out simply by organization reaching out to us, the EPC, saying, hey, look, we think, you know, you got kind of a safety spin to the stuff you do, and Gopher State one call over here, we're worried about people hitting stuff when they dig in the ground and it blowing up and people getting hurt. Maybe we can figure out how to do something together. And so that project started in 2020 and has now reached the point where the team is in the process of developing basically first time on the planet software that will allow for the aggregation of dig site utilities in one view. And that I should say the approach that is being used is first time on the planet, where in the past, everybody has tried to dump everything into one database. This approach harmonizes things on the fly. How do you do, Bob? Is that okay? All right. Okay, so Bob being the lead project developer of that, if you would like to learn more about what's going on with that beast, you can go to www.fusionview.org. That website is in the process of being developed, but at least it'll give you a sense or an idea what that project's all about. The pace has been brutal on that project, just on that project alone. And again, I'm trying to segment this so everybody understands it. We've got multiple different major projects underway at any given time. And so this one at the start of 2023 versus the end of 2023, when we started the year out, there was no funding, signed funding agreement in place, and there was no money in the bank. Right now, there's $225,000 in the piggy bank to develop out the software to make this work. There were no, if you will, called pioneer partners to make the project work. The first one to sign on was MnDOT, because MnDOT immediately got it about what this will do for them on reducing hits in their right of way. So MnDOT's on board, and we're working with another an engineering firm WSB Engineering we're working through the fidelity tie-up piece back and forth to make sure that the data can move back and forth seamlessly, and it's some high-end programming stuff that's going on. No proven capability beyond a demo. A demo was done in Glencoe, I want to say Illinois all the time, but it's Minnesota, and that was a localized project where there was more or less stage data, but now we're, no kidding, working with live data. There was no staff structure. It's essentially a structure of 10, and right now we're waiting for number 10 to come on board with a secondary programmer. No research interviews conducted. There have been more than 8 research interviews with software providers, locators, utilities, and gleaning from them how the build should be shaped going forward. There was no dev environment to do the testing, put up the core software, and there was no promotional material and professional development. Right now, one of the partners in the effort, One Call Concepts, has offered up their promotional team to develop informational brochures for decision makers, for GIS people, for emergency managers, so they can all have some sense of what this thing is and what's intended to happen with it, and so on. So the pace over there is pretty darn quick. And then spreading the word, just so you get a sense of the kind of outreach that's going on, because this particular project is in high demand for people to hear about it, because it is revolutionary in the underground utility community. And you can see there, Barb Cedarberg is going to be on the road quite a bit and Bob is going to be on the road quite a bit this coming year. So you can see a listing of some of the presentations that will be occurring.
We did as many as that, or maybe more last year too, so.
I think you did more than that.
I couldn't remember exactly, but I mean, in the last year, we did just as many of them, so.
You did 3 within 30 days that I'm aware of. So anyway, all the way out to Pittsburgh. And then we're down to the education effort. No progress there, because again, we have made the decision that to focus the totality of our energies on where Stacy is going with her project in an effort to try to move that along as quickly as possible. But there is some self-instruction available through using the training items that are listed out on the EPC website. Outreach, kind of the same thing. Do we have any volunteers out there willing to go stand at a table? As I indicated earlier, if it makes sense to target anything beyond the reality of us having a virtual booth up and running, it certainly would seem to me to be the event at Breezy Point. So if you have any interest in helping out with trying to spread the word about the EPC and all the good work that's taking place, the potential to participate in some great projects, by all means, please send me an email and let me know you want to play. Response, geospatial assistance. Near and dear to his heart, Brian Huberty's on the call. What I would point out there, once again, we're on hold with something that we've known for a long time needs to be out there, and that's to create a Minnesota version of what FEMA did. What is that, back in 18? The idea that to help everybody understand the capabilities that are out there with geospatial technology that can be supportive of the emergency services sector. Here's the opportunity to do that. And so we've only got a limited amount of manpower. We got to focus it on what, as a leadership team, we decided as being our #1 priority. So Brian, you're on the call. Do you want to add anything to that comment?
No, not much. It's getting the diverse, if you want to call it, the people that have the eyes in the sky or in the space and so forth, and getting them all together such that we can deliver the information as in a disaster is happening or shortly thereafter has always been a challenge. But it's also a challenge of the funding mechanisms for the state as well as locals to use to get access to that information. And so it's not as simple as it sounds. So we'll just leave it there. And if anybody's interested in volunteering, just feel free to contact me.
Let's see here. Is this like using survey one? This is a question from online that just showed up. Is this like using survey 1, 2, 3 for damage assessments? The idea would be this. Right now, if I were to ask an emergency manager, what are the capabilities that you have access to, given the fact you just had this big tornado go through your community and kill half a dozen people and knock down, major part of the town, what sort of capabilities do you have or can you tap into with the Minnesota National Guard or through FEMA or through potentially other resources that may be pre-staged through contractors that have already been hired by DHS? And we shouldn't be tossing them out there without them being able to have something to refer to look up that information and go, oh, if we did this, this would cost me no money by using Civil Air Patrol as an example. That's what the idea would be behind this particular document. What we want to do next, that's the idea behind that piece. Response, situational awareness. Well, we just talked about the whole thing with Stacy, and the idea is we want to piggyback on what's going to happen between Stacy and this project. So there really isn't anything more that we want to talk about with that. That takes us down to U.S. National Grid. Randy, I'm going to steal your thunder. Randy was unable to make the board of directors, the recent board of directors meeting of the U.S. National Grid Institute. He had a competing important event that he had to attend. So that if you're not aware of it, again, this particular organization spawned the creation of the U.S. National Grid Institute, which is now comprised of a number of people from around the United States. And if I forget to mention it, say census to me at the very end of talking about National Grid. Anyway, the next meeting of the U.S. National Grid Institute takes place Wednesday, January 24th at 2 p.m. It is an interesting group of people that are trying to push forward nationally better understanding of U.S. National Grid and how it can be used from everything from the academic world on figuring out things that would be important, for instance, in pandemic, or to how to find somebody in the woods. So that project has now been reinforced by Florida State University, who has come up with the dollars to put in into the project a intern, which will grow from 3 interns supporting implementation of U.S. National Grid. And they're pretty serious about the whole thing. And I know you can't read this, but the idea is they've calculated or they've listed out all the things that they want this intern to be doing. And they've even gone so far as to develop a social media plan that's going to be hatched as the U.S. National Grid Institute comes out of its final year of formalization, which was this year, and actually start being progressive in getting the word out. The USNG app has been version 2, has been sitting in the can for a couple of years now, and finally the license, 9 pages of it, has been finally cleaned up and ready to go. So this should be getting rolled out here within the not too distant future. Shared Geo ponied up $2,500 to take again the idea that came out of this committee of creating these emergency location markers, ELMs, out of use of the U.S. National Grid. And what's happening right now is there's a firm that's converting the very sloppy, very poor U.S. National Grid store that was stood up back in 2011 or whatever, and converting it to a very slick, easy to maintain location. And right now there's a brochure that's being kicked around with several folks looking at it to read through and figure out what do we want this thing to look like on a national level for a US National Grid trifold that might be of value. So with that, the last thing I want to mention, census. The US Census, the light bulb has gone on that, hey, maybe there's this grid thing out there that might be important for us using that as a way to better identify data into something more exact than a census tract or into like a zip code. So that project is currently being worked. We don't know when there's going to be a discussion, a formal discussion that will be apparent to the rest of the world. But our next US National Grid Implementation Working Group, Fennis Reed, who is in the finance department in California, will be briefing that. So if you want to come in and find out a little bit about what's going on with that, that'd be your opportunity. Randy, I apologize. Did I miss anything for you on US National Grid?
No, well, it was, there is a US National Grid priority on the GAC priority list. And it is to create and deploy US National Grid tools. And there is an ArcMap map document out there and instructions, and that needs to be migrated for ArcGIS Pro. We've already made maps in ArcGIS Pro. It's just a matter of updating that procedure and putting the Pro project out there. The ArcGIS Pro is also used in there's a template out there on the NAPSIG website. You can just search for NAPSIG USNG and you can find it. And that uses ArcGIS Pro tasks for creating US National Grid based map series. So some work to do, but this is one of the things on the GAC priority list for next year.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. Okay, from the floor, is there any old business? Going once, going twice, gone. Is there any new business from the floor? Even out there in Zoom land, any new business? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, that takes us down to comments, announcements, other business, and adjourn. Okay.
There's a few chats there.
Oh,
Nothing new.
No.
Oh.
okay. Volunteer of the quarter. So we've already had 3. Acknowledge, obviously, we have Randy in the room. Barb Cedarberg, who is off gallivanting around the countryside right now. And then Stacy, who's, here. So those have been our folks in the past.
You should mention who Barb Cedarberg is. It's
Barb Cedarberg being the COO of Gopher State One Call. So Randy, you should tell them who you are.
I'm Randy Kidipple. I'm the GIS manager at Dakota County.
Thanks, sir. And Stacy, please.
Hi, I got it. Stacy Stark. I am at the University of Minnesota and in a unit called Geospatial.
And all 3 of those folks have been honored for their exceptional contributions to this group during past efforts, and they were recognized this year. So guess what? We have a volunteer of the quarter for the 4th quarter. That's Britta Maddox. And here's the citation or the note that will go when her certificate is sent out. Starting in early 2022, Britta Maddox, Public Safety Data System Fire RMS Administrator for Anoka County Fire Protection Council, spearheaded efforts to develop best practices for use and sharing of geospatial data based on criminal justice information services sharing rules. In late 2022, Britta's work was released by the Minnesota Geospatial Advisory Council as the CJIS Best Practices Guide and Resources for GIS in Minnesota. Going forward, this document will be a key reference for efforts to connect law enforcement and other CGIS regulated data to GIS systems for analysis and sharing. A truly exemplary member of the Minnesota Emergency Services sector, Britta is the EPC's volunteer of the quarter for fourth quarter of 2023. Britta, are you online with us today?
I don't see her.
Okay, well. You'll be able to hear it online. There you go. Well, I'll be in touch. Thank you very much for your contribution and effort. Greatly appreciated. Okay, next EPC meeting, got to iron it out. We are looking at a choice between Wednesday, March 13th or April 11th, Thursday, April 11th. I'd be inclined to stretch us out to Thursday, April 11th. What do respective schedules look like in the room? Nobody knows. They say just pick a date. It's so far out and we're not going to worry about it. So then I'll pick Thursday, April 11th. And what will happen is I'll get all kinds of moaning and complaining like, oh, wait, that's my kid's time off at school for spring break or whatever. You just know it will happen. So anyway, that takes us down to topic. And we're always interested in finding engaging and important idea topics. And everybody's tired of flooding in spring. But what does it do in Minnesota in spring? It floods. So please help me find something other than flooding, but maybe by default we'll end up there. Okay, I think we need to go back there. Last topic I have for you. The BLVD Tavern is waiting for us. I'll buy the first 2 cold drinks. You'll be able to get a ticket packet from Randy, and your green card thing is going to get you your drinks, and then you're going to be able to be in the snack line, buffet line to eat pizza and wings and other stuff. Door prizes, there's about 10 of them, up to $100 Visa card. So we'll see who the real players are if they actually show up at that event. And then you need to get an envelope if you want to play, and you got to look for the guy with a Santa hat. So I'll be wearing a Santa hat at the event. So look for me if you don't get an envelope here. Okay, anyway, spouses, neighbors, co-workers, you like the sound of police cars. It doesn't matter to show up. Because the reality is jaw jacking is the thing that makes. Stacy, how did you end up here? Going to the EPC party, right? Kind of, come on. It's really easy to get there. It's just come out of the parking lot, turn, what direction is that? Turn left going east. Yeah, something like that. And then drive down through 2 stoplights and it's in the shopping mall right before you get on 55. So if you go under 55, you went too far. So there's nothing to get in there. And it's a nice facility. We're gonna have 2 bartenders in there waiting for us. And all the tables are reserved and there's a buffet line and all the rest of it. So
that's not Highway 55, that's Highway 52.
Okay, thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. Who do I owe that to?
Huberty.
All right, Ryan, thanks, sir. Okay. Motion to adjourn. I put it before the floor. Do I have it seconded?
Second.
Oh, somebody wants to end. Is everybody opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. And one last thing, we have been offered by Teresa that the Esri Developer Summit is March 11 through 15. Teresa, can you jump in with, is that in Palm Springs or where are they doing it this year? Palm Springs? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Palm Springs.
All right, appreciate the note. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break and then you're going to get competent people up here talking to us and we'll take it from there. So I'll introduce you. And so I went a little bit long, which is not unusual. So we'll call our start time at 3:05. Okay, because I'm sort of like Fidel Castro. I get up here talking, I can't stop. All right, thanks everybody.